but she said, don't even ask. It's kind of funny. Monique is never going back to Housewives either, but it's kind of funny that we all thought, hey, where's Monique? Or at least enough of you did. There is this rumor circulating that Robyn is fired as well. You don't lose your job before the reunion. Do I think Robyn is going to lose her job? I do. Do I think there is going to be a cast shake up and change? I do. I think it's time. I could see with Candiace leaving, I think for me, I mean, you have to keep enough people. It's the whole reason Alexia and Adriana and Marisol were back to kind of launch Miami, although those days are over for them too. But I think with Candiace being out, I could see Giselle, Karen Huger, Ashley, and Mia being the four people that go forward. Robyn is definitely going to be out. Nneka's going to be out. Candiace has left. And I think it's time for the professor to go back to teaching courses. So that's kind of what I see. Maybe you just keep Robyn. I mean, maybe you just keep Giselle, Karen, and Ashley, and Mia also loses her job. I think there's more gas in Mia, and I think you kind of keep Mia. But I think Robyn and Nneka are definitely out, and I think the professor is going to be out too. I loved Candiace. Farewell until we meet again, my friend. Speaking of RHOP, Miss Huger. Everyone wanted me to talk about this last week, and I just didn't have time. Miss Huger has crashed her car. She has crashed her car. What do we know? And this is a developing story. She has refused to take a breathalyzer test. She was seen as intoxicated, bloodshot eyes, and slurring her words. That's what the report said. She has come out and made her own statement that, we all know she lost her mother a year or two ago. She said, as Mother's Day approaches, which it's 2 months away, but as Mother's Day approaches, she's getting extremely even more emotional than normal. And she had a very heated emotional conversation at dinner with her friend, and she was crying really hard as she drove home, crying, crying, crying. And then because she was crying so hard, because of the emotional conversation, because of Mother's Day coming up, that she swerved off the road to avoid an oncoming car. And if you looked at some of the pictures, she took out the tree. There's a huge chunk taken out of the tree. The grounds themselves are like dug up. The car, the Maserati, is extremely damaged. And Karen said that she's just grateful to be alive. I mean, what world is this that like people are swerving off roads and then happy to be alive? Well, maybe you wouldn't have to be grateful to be alive if you didn't drink and drive. Excuse me. Excuse me while I grab some coffee. I need coffee. She left a lot of things out of her statement, like the fact that her eyes were bloodshot and that she had a DUI. There are these reports surfacing that I read that there was alcohol in the car. One of my friends texted me and said, did you see there was open containers? The reports I read said that there were like beers in the front seat, but there was nothing open. Regardless, it's not a great sign. It's not a great look. Miss Jackson Jordan, our good friend Charisse, has weighed in and basically said Karen can keep trying to take away Charisse's coins. That will never happen. And she needs to mind her own business, and that producers and RHOP, she said Truly Original, which is the production company, not to be confused with Shed Media for New York or Sirens for New Jersey or Evolution for Beverly Hills. But she said Truly Original and Bravo and all the people involved can keep protecting her. But, for those of us that are in the know, as Miss Jackson Jordan apparently is, that Karen is the drunk of Potomac. And we are now seeing the real Karen Huger, which is a drunk of Potomac. Slurs, stumbles into bars. Man, if that's the case, Miss Huger has hid this from us for many, many years. You know how they say we never see the real story? And by the way, anyone that's thinking, oh, David, you're wrong. This DUI, they're going to start filming right away because, I mean, this is like gold. Karen finally has a story. Wrong. It doesn't work that way. Wrong. Potomac is taking a hiatus. No one has said it at Truly Original. Andy hasn't said it. No one on Bravo has said it. I'm going to say it. We're taking our time in Potomac. We got to cast it. We got to figure it out. Or shelf it. The same way I think I'm not so convinced Miami is coming back. Let's see. Do we have time to talk about that? I don't know. We'll see. We don't go over 20 minutes. These little hits are supposed to be 8 minutes. Now we're at 20. What has my life become, people? But I love you all. Hey, you know what we need to talk about? Miss Beador, our friend Miss Beador. She has been sued. Can you believe this? Jonn Janssen, he's back on the show, dating Alexis. They say they are in love. Kind of starting to believe them, just like Teresa and Louis. I mean, let me tell you, if I was Teresa and Louis pulled up in that pink car that he was in Beverly Hills, back in my backyard over here, I would be so embarrassed. Like, don't you think Teresa is really secretly just a little embarrassed by Louis? I mean, he dances to the beat of his own drum. Gotta support that. But don't you think she's like a little embarrassed? I would be. But anyway, I mean, I guess I would be a little embarrassed to be with Teresa too. So what am I saying? But I digress. Um, they're in love and they're like, two peas in a pot. I'm kind of starting to think the same thing about Jonn Janssen and Alexis. I do believe them when they say they're in love. And I do believe that this could all work out. Anyway, he has sued Miss Beador. He has claimed, and he sued her for breach of contract and for promissory. I forgot what the other thing is that he sued her for, but he sued her for breach of contract. Basically saying that he lent her $75,000 in 2022. She needed $40,000 for a facelift. In 2023, she needed $35,000 for a second facelift, and he lent it to her. And it was very clear that it was not a gift. It was very clear that he was loaning it to her with her intentions to pay it back. Now, before we get into some other things, I mean, and by the way, he's suing her for an oral breach of contract. Let me put that in, be clear, because there's nothing in writing. The actual contract is not in writing, but they're claiming, his lawyers are saying, that if I'm just looking this up, that if she tries to say that this was a gift, which I think she's already said, and I get to keep the money because it was a gift, they're saying there's no contract. So he's suing her for a breach of an oral contract, which is harder to prove. But they're saying there are so many emails between the two. It was very clear that this was not a gift. And Shannon knows that, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, oral. So he's suing for breach of oral contract and promissory fraud. So just two things. And sometimes I get in the